So we had planned this out. Unfortunately, some legal problems intervened because we only got to the prototype stage. No one went to jail, but we also didn't go to the bank. And so anyway, you would take one pill, and sometimes two, because people vary in their levels of monoamine oxidase, and some people need way more. I'm a low MAO type, which means risk-taking, drug-seeking behavior, loose screw, all of the above. And so, and other people are more cautious, prudent, and so forth, and so they generally need more monoamine oxidase inhibitors. But I sort of subscribe to William Blake said, and I don't mean to be a feminist, but it's Blake's. He said, prudence is a rich, ugly old maid courted by incapacity. But I've kicked myself for imprudence many times, so you have to have a balanced number. Anyway, so we had these pills, and people loved them. So you took one of the MAO inhibitors, and as many as you wanted of the other one. 3 was usually, people didn't ask for more, above a 30 milligram dose like 5 grams of DMT. And so then I went on to other bioacids. I started studying these snuff plants, and then I found out, this whole theory of ayahuasca analogues was originally proposed in the context of the snuffs, not in the context of the beverage. It was later extended to the beverage. And so again, I compiled all the literature, and there was a little bit more in this case, but still quite unsatisfactory. Again, I got out my lab equipment. I had pure compounds, isolated from the plants. And so I began to study bufotenine, which is 5-hydroxy-DMT, and its O-methyl derivative, or 5-methoxy-DMT, which are the important compounds in the snuffs. Again, not DMT, which gets a lot of ink, but it's only a big player in these snuffs, the ones that we know about today that have survived into modern times. Okay, so I started experimenting with it, and lo and behold, I found out that these compounds are much more active in the nose or under the tongue, just by imitating what the indigenous shamans do. Because I trust them. They've never led me astray. And of course, you have to have a certain amount of criteria and good judgment in selecting a mentor. There are a lot, just like in any other profession, there are lots of fake shamans and lots of charlatans operating. And so you have to sometimes get a second opinion, shall we say. And so I found out, in fact, that you didn't really need these beta-carotenoids, harmine, the Bannister-Hofstad's compound. In the case of the ayahuasca analog, unfortunately, people say, well, it's a synergy between MAOI, beta-harmine, and DMT. Well, it is. And then they will, unfortunately, say, well, it potentiates DMT. Well, it doesn't. Because, true enough, if you take a gram of DMT orally, you won't feel anything, and if you take 30 milligrams of DMT with enough, 120, say, milligrams of harmine, you will feel something. But that's not potentiation, that's activation. You're going from 0 to something, you're not going from 1 to 2. And so, in fact, it is a way of activating or catalyzing activity, but it does not make it more potent. In fact, it makes it less potent. And why is it less potent? Because, unfortunately, and I found this out again by testing it myself in very high doses, both the common harmless seeds and pure harmine and pure harmony. Unfortunately, it's a Valium-like compound. It's a GABA-A receptor agonist. It fits, there's this ion channel in the membranes of our nerve cells, and it's called a GABA-A receptor. But it lets chloride ions into the inside of the nerve axon or the nerve fiber. And I won't go into it, but just to be precise, it hyperpolarizes the membrane. And so the resting potential is something like minus 30 millivolts, and it becomes about minus 50 millivolts. What that means is it takes a stronger impulse to overcome the resting state of the membrane, and so it tones everything down, like it turns down the sensitivity of all these membranes. And so you need a stronger impulse. Basically, it stills everything down and it relaxes it. Well, the compounds that will hit this receptor that are most famous are Valium and Librium and other benzodiazepines, kava, lactones, the compounds from Baldrian or valerian, the compounds from Salvia miltiorhiza in Chinese medicine, and also to some extent alcohol. And so it come to find out, as people know, things like alcohol and benzodiazepines and kava are what you take when you want to come down from acid, not when you want to go up on acid or on some other tryptamine. Acid is also a tryptamine, but it's a long-lasting one. And so in a way, far from potentiating these beta-carbolines, you're like taking a little bit of Valium and then trying to overcome it with DMT. And so, to me, I'm just speaking for myself and from talking to my friends, it's only possible to get to a certain level of effect with this particular combination, and then it doesn't go any higher because it's overwhelmed by the beta-carboline, and that's relaxing it down. Okay, so the beta-carboline, the harmine, activates this GABA A receptor and hyperpolarized membrane. It also competes with DMT for access to whatever serotonin receptor sites are involved, and we don't know what serotonin receptor sites are involved. But evidently DMT, LSD, psilocybin, etc., they hit some serotonin receptor. Serotonin is 5-hydroxytryptamine, and bufotenin is 5-hydroxy-dimethyltryptamine. So I could draw this up, but you probably have seen it before. And so I found by doing these snuff experiments that indeed it was much more active, so I kind of lost interest in the ayahuasca. And then we were at the Palenque seminars, this would have been about 1998, perhaps 1999, around 10 years ago. And I was describing with a great deal of influence, oh yeah, it's great, it's much better than the ayahuasca analogues, you need much less, and so forth. But then everybody, of course, wanted to try it. And then, I was sitting around, and I probably did some coke, and that usually gives me good ideas. And so I realized that one of my Dutch colleagues had come, and we had a bottle of about 1,000 of these pills, just the ones with the 10 milligrams of 5-methoxy-DMT. Now be careful with 5-methoxy-DMT, it's very potent. And if people are used to DMT, they're, I need a little more, knock a big rock into the pipe or whatever, and they will really find out it's about 5 times more potent, but otherwise quite similar. And so I thought, okay, that solves the problem. I don't have a balance, but it's already dosed as 10 milligrams in each pill. And so I immediately rebaptized it Pharmapena. That Pena is the name of the generic name of the Varroa snuff, which contains mainly 5-methoxy-DMT. And so it was simply crush up the pill, pour in it, and then in 2 minutes you have the trip.